Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Yes, that sounds great. Here we go. It is a Thursday. I would like to confirm with you that it is a Thursday in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau, go with the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance across the great state of Mississippi. Your hometown heroes, that's your local Farm Bureau Insurance agents all around the state. There is a reason that I said right off the bat that I would like to confirm that it is Thursday, and that is because I woke up this morning not just wondering, not just confused, but totally and utterly convinced. I'm talking about from the time I woke up for hours. 100% convinced today was Friday. It is, in fact, not. Hey, Beaver, have you ever genuinely been confused about what day it was?
Yes, many times. In fact, there was a period somewhat recently, where I would say for like a month straight, I thought every Wednesday was a Thursday. I'm not kidding.
It's just funny to hear it that way. It does happen. And isn't it the oddest feeling to stand there and go, I was completely convinced it was another day that it isn't. It's just, it threw me for a loop. But here's the bad thing about it, Beaver. I was even this morning, like I've got different appointments and meetings and things that, I've got to schedule with different people over the next several days, including Friday and the weekend and Monday and travel and different stuff. And I started even texting people, making arrangements and stuff, all based on the fact in my head that today was Friday. I thought there was one appointment I was going to have to miss, and I was already rescheduling it because I thought today was Friday. So I don't know how that happens or why it happens. I do have a little teeny tiny theory that it must have something to do with the fact that football is getting closer. And for the entire week, I have been in preview mode, as you have, whether you're on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube. Hey to y'all, coming to your comments in just a bit. If you're on the Country Please and text line, we're all in preview mode, right? We're still previewing high school football. You don't have the regular season yet. You're going to have jamborees on Friday. Now, MAIS has started, but you're previewing college football. Even though we've got preseason games in the NFL, we had some. We're going to have another one tonight. It's still preview mode. And that's why these few weeks in August are always, I think, the longest weeks of the year for us in this part of the country, because one, football won't hurry up and the anticipation really starts to build. Then once the game starts, it's like the season's over like that, but time flies because we're having fun. But then also on top of the season won't hurry up and get here, it's mostly brutally hot. Now, I know we've talked about weather a lot this week and how we got a little break the last few days, but it is going to get hot again. So anyhow, maybe that's the reason I was convinced it's Friday. It is, in fact, Thursday in the Bureau. Now, before we go any further, I'm going to set you up with this because I have something I want you to hear. I had a chance just a little while ago to sit down and have a conversation with someone who has been a defensive coordinator very recently in the SEC and around here, and has been a head coach at the Group of Five level here recently, and has been a head coach at the Power Five level here very recently. It's all one person. And the main reason I was talking to him is this question that has come up about Mississippi State's offensive line. There seems to be some chatter. Last night, a buddy of mine we live in the same town, I get a message from him and a link, and he's sending me different tweets of different things and a link to read where there's this discussion going on saying, hey, look, man, can you shed any light on this for me? He's a huge fan, always asking for info. He says, can you shed any light on this for me? You've got some analysts out there who he showed me have apparently said Mississippi State's offensive line may struggle, especially out of the gates, because of this offensive transition. Going from you're in an air raid scheme, you're passing all the time, you're up in a 2-point stance, you're out here pass blocking on an island, wide splits to now more typical. We're back in close splits. We're run blocking more. And the idea that, you can practice it all you want to, but they're going to struggle. And then the argument on the other side of that is, well, it ain't that, much different. You're just running it more, but the run schemes are kind of the same run schemes, a lot of it anyway. Just you got to work out the splits, tighter splits. And you argue, well, State's got all these veterans. I mean, all of them, 6, 7 guys in their top 8 are seniors and grad seniors, and that's a fact. So there just seems to be a little back and forth going on. So I thought today, well, I want to talk to somebody who not only has coached at that level, but has also been through a transition like that, where you come in and you go from transition from one type of scheme, just totally overhaul it into another type of scheme. And so that's what I got right here. This is a conversation I just had, like just a few minutes ago, with Geoff Collins. He is the former defensive coordinator at Mississippi State when Dan Mullen was a head coach. He then became, defensive coordinator at Florida. He then became the head coach at Temple. And most recently, up through last year, he was the head coach at Georgia Tech. Geoff Collins, the, originator of the quote-unquote psycho defense at Mississippi State. And he touches on it right here. Let's listen to the interview, and then we'll come back and get your thoughts on it. Here's that conversation with Geoff Collins.
Really do appreciate some time. So I want to talk line of scrimmage.
Sure.
Our friends up on the line of scrimmage, who they are the reason wins and losses happen. But we all pay attention to quarterbacks.
State's got a good one.
And they do, and it's a big part of it. But there's been a conversation going on about State's offensive line transitioning from air raid to a more typical kind of spread option run. Just on the surface, when you see that, what are your thoughts about an offensive line making that transition?
Yeah, and it's always an interesting conversation. I've gone through it in my career as a head coach, the transition from a heavy run to more of a balanced attack. And Starkville, they're doing the opposite of that. It's air raid, pass-heavy offense. A lot of the runs were predicated off of draw schemes as well. So a heavy emphasis on pass and draw and those kind of things. And then I've known Kevin Barbay, I guess it's going on 8 years now, because he and I were together at Florida with Jim McElwain, and think very highly of him and what he's done as an offensive coordinator, especially the last 2 years. And I think the thing that does help Starkville is they do have 4 returning starters across the line, and even though they were big pass emphasis offense, I think one of the biggest things is the mentality shift. I think because I've watched Kevin a bunch, a lot of three-point stance, a lot of play action, and downhill run, stretch, inside zone, gap scheme. And I think a lot of that comes with obviously the shift in the fundamentals, the shift in executing out of more of a three-point stance. But I think the shift in mentality, where we're going to run the ball and build play actions off of it to set up some explosive plays. I watched a bunch of the spring game, and I think it's a process that's going to go through. But I have confidence in Kevin and what he's going to be able to do.
Yeah. So you mentioned something interesting to me. I'm thinking about it from like a purely fundamental standpoint. We talk about schemes and all this stuff, but it's guys' hands, feet, legs, butts, and muscles have got to make it happen. So 3-point stance. So you mentioned that, right? Because in the air raid, big wide splits, and even your guards are up on 2. They're basically a tackle in space because of the wide. So that's a big adjustment really for the interior offensive lineman, right?
Right. And then too, just the mentality, a lot of those times are set up to be one-on-one matchups a lot of times in the passing game and even in the run game too. But now you shift to more, the protection, the variances of slide protection, going back in protection, all those kind of things, zoning off certain sides of protections that you have to do in a normal traditional offense.
Okay. So for you as a coach, where you've had a spring, a summer, and now you're in fall. They do have a bunch of it's like all seniors and grad seniors, multiple grad seniors that are all going to play for. That's like their first 7 are all seniors and grad seniors.
Yep.
So when you see that, and we got to go hand on the ground more, we're closer together. So we got to really operate like a zone defense in basketball. We operate as one unit. How tough is that transition? As some people are saying, are they going to have to play a game or two before they really figure it out? Or do you see it as a coach of, we can coach that up and they can be ready to go game one?
Yeah, there's nothing like going against an opponent from a different colored jersey that you're going to have to play against.
Sure.
And the variances, you get kind of used to, I know Coach Arnett and the defensive scheme that they have is really good and really multiple, but you kind of, see the same blitzes, same things that you're going to have to deal with. Now, all of a sudden, you're having to run an entirely new offense with an entirely new set of schematics that you're going against. And really the first 2 games, there's always unknowns because those coaches are off, in Arizona, Southeast Louisiana, they've been scheming some stuff up too. So there's going to be a lot of new things that are going to get thrown at them. So I think anytime that it's, this drastic of a shift, there's going to be some things that are going to have, real time adjustments that have to be made. But I do think having, a coach as high quality as Coach 𝙎𝘼𝘏 and a lot of returning older guys, I think that helps. But I think, it's going to be a mentality shift. It's going to be a lot of things that they're going to have to adjust on the fly. And, one of the good things, I was looking at the schedule, 8 home games with those cowbells ringing, hopefully that's gotta lend some, some help as well.
Sure. And I know you know a lot about them. I saw the mayhem on your shirt. I have since you were the DC at State all those years ago, you've since gone and been a head coach at multiple places, but I'll never forget the psycho defense, and scream. And since then, Coach, I've heard a lot of other people say in high schools and other stuff saying psycho defense. And I think, now, wait a minute, now that's Jeff's. That's his thing, but other people are using it. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that, but I think any kind of thing like that is flattery. And we had a great run there, and I have such fond memories of Starkville and the fan base and all those kind of things. I've still yet since I left there, I think the end of 2014. Have found any breakfast place that replicates Starkville Cafe, duck butter, and I try to find that experience replicated everywhere I go. I just haven't found it. So I guess one of those 8 home games, I need to make a trip.
Yes, you do. You come on in there, and you'll have a crowd. People certainly remember those years so fondly. Sure. I was thinking about the 14 year this morning. I shared it on Twitter when I was getting ready to interview you. It just reminded me. That LSU game in 14, it was such a big deal. And I saw you on the hotel. This is hours and hours before you even go to the stadium. And I said, you feel good about tonight? You were like,
yeah.
I mean, it was the Jack. You guys knew you had a really good team before anybody else realized it in 14.
We did. And we had built to that. And, just everything came together. The leadership on both sides of the ball. Anytime you have Dak Prescott as your quarterback, and Bernardrick McKinney is your Mike linebacker, you got a chance. And, I know there's a bunch of guys that are still playing in the league off of that team, but just fond memories and love that place.
Hey, you mentioned a minute ago, one-on-one matchups, and I hadn't even thought of it, but when you said that, immediately I get this picture. That game against LSU in 14, I remember he had the big, 4-down stop on the goal line.
Yep.
You guys put Preston Smith, who's a linebacker, edge rusher in the NFL, at nose guard in that game. And it sort of confuses them because they're in a passing 3rd down. Right. Well, they're thinking, well, he's inside. We're going to single him up. Well, you couldn't single him. It was brilliant putting him at nose that game.
And having Chris Jones, true freshman year, he was our edge rusher in our Prowler package. And so that game was actually on TV. One of the replays on SEC Network, and tried to get my daughter to watch it, and so she would think I was cool, but obviously that didn't work. But that was a great night.
Oh man, golly, Preston Smith at nose.
Yep.
Chris Jones off the edge. Bernardrick McKinney in the middle.
Pretty good.
I guess what it feels like I'm kind of driving towards it's players, not scheme. Is that what we're driving towards right there?
A lot of times it is, the better players you got, the better chance you got. And, I said earlier about the quarterback that they have, he's a really good player. And, I think the NFL is, the spread has evolved into the NFL, but still you're watching NFL Network all the time. 50% of the time they're under center. So him having that exposure to be under center a lot of the times is going to help him too for when he gets to the next level. So I got to imagine, he's embraced, that. And in this entire conversation, utmost respect for Coach Leach. I've got 3 of his books sitting over here in my Mississippi State corner. And, just the respect that everybody has for him. And, even though the air raid is pass heavy, pass emphasis, Coach always talked about the discipline, the toughness, all of those things are built into that program, and they're built into that place over in Starkville too. That want to see a physical, tough brand of ball on both sides. And, I think, Kevin Barbay, brings that.
Yeah. All-time great book title in my mind, Squib Kick It to a Fat Guy. Only Mike Leach would come up with that. It's perfect.
He's the best.
He's the best.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, back to the line of scrimmage transition thing, and we'll finish with this. When you got the head coaching job at Georgia Tech back in the day, this was the inverse. You're taking over a program at that point. They'd run the Paul Johnson midline veer option. I don't know what you want to call it.
And they ran it really well.
Really well. And look, I remember, Coach, we'd watch them play, and we played them a couple of times, like in 2009 and the bowl game. And you watch them, and their linemen are down there like this high off the ground, firing off ahead, hitting people. It's a totally different style.
Yep.
That you guys were kind of transitioning into what is we'd call, a modern offense, but certainly a more typical spread type of offense.
And before the portal existed, so it's one of those things.
Right.
It is what it is. And I think one of the pieces too with Kevin's offense, we walked into a system that had 0 tight ends on the roster, and trying to find those guys, whether it be a reserve linebacker, which we made the transition to help us to get through the first year, or really the first 2 years, because there was no portal. So you had to build it from scratch. It was all true freshmen playing tight end. Luckily, we got a grad transfer, but the tight end position is going to be huge. The development and the maturation of that position, transitioning to Coach Barbay's offense as well. And, I don't think that can be, overlooked. That's a, it's a unique situation to be in, but the long term of investing in it, will pay off. But just understanding that it's going to be a process. And, I think, got the right guys to do it, and just the mentality shift, when you're running a gap scheme, running a power on 3rd and 1 is different, and the tight ends one-on-one base block on a 9 technique or 6 technique, it takes cumulative reps, to be really good. And I know this better than anybody, but that SEC's got some real dudes on defense that you got to try to block. And, so it's going to be fun to watch, but I'm going to be pulling for Stade and Kevin and Tony Hughes and David Turner and Chad Bumpus and Greg Knox, all back in Starkville. So that place got a fan in me.
Zach really has put together a fantastic staff, hasn't he?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was good to see those guys come back, and because I'm close to all those guys, and just to see them, come together and support him, because going from defense coordinator to being the head ball coach, that's a transition as well. And having a bunch of really good, loyal people that are good humans and that want to see what's best for that place. I think that sets, Zach up for success in the short term and the long term as well.
Yeah. Really good stuff. Jeff, it's been a real treat. I appreciate it. The only disappointment in the interview is I'm disappointed in myself that I didn't put a piece of tape on my cup and say juice across here. I'll have to think of that next time.
No, I got my swag chalice over there in the corner too.
Swag chalice? Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. And a cowbell. You can't go wrong with either one of those.
No doubt. Appreciate it.
Really do appreciate it, Coach. Talk soon.
All right, Matt.
With Jeff Collins, former Mississippi State defensive coordinator there. We kind of touch on that, but then since he went to Florida, and then he went to be the head coach at Temple, was a head coach at Georgia Tech. He's out of coaching this year, kind of still living off that contract of being let go at Georgia Tech and getting to have some great family time that he actually hasn't had over the years. Just a great guy. He's kind of got a few. If he wants to do media, he can do that. He can be back in coaching real soon also. But some perspective there on this question, and that is State's offensive line. So he's coming from, obviously years of experience coaching, but also coaching and going to Georgia Tech when they were going to transition from offense, had done one specific specialty thing and didn't necessarily have personnel right off the bat, and he didn't have a transfer portal back then to quickly transition it into a more spread zone style of offense, that spread option offense that we typically see and everybody's recruiting to. And he said, it sounded like to me, and listening to him, he thinks there will be a period of transition for the whole offense and particularly the offensive line. He thinks there will be. How quick it takes, kind of up to them and up to the coaches. So give me your thoughts on that, and we'll hit those when we come back. Just getting started on this Thursday in the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Stick around.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal that tastes grand, the cereal that's All-Bran, a breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
You will enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free.
Yeah!
For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, This is the never-ending story.
It's a new thing. It's a fun thing. It's a swing wing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. It's a wing wing. A brand new classic grand fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. A fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing.
It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the $67.95 Mazda SE5. Introducing Mazda SE5 Plus 5. $625 worth of extra features at no extra charge from Mazda. You get a bed liner, mud guards, sliding rear window, floor mats, and AM/FM stereo. That's a $600.
Alrighty, back with you. I'm Matt in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. Farm Bureau, go with the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau. You can text me on the Country Pleasing text line. Country Pleasing sausage on grocery store shelves all around the Southeast. It's the best. As I told you yesterday, I am in on some jalapeno and cheddar and the original smoked sausage flavor. That's what I got going on at the house right now. Speaking of Country Pleasing, Hill Dog texted the show with a little story here, and he said, "Hey, Matt, it's a true Country Pleasing testimonial. I lived in Mississippi my whole life, and 6 years ago moved to New Bern, North Carolina." New Bern, it's 2 words. He says, "I make the trip to Brandon, Mississippi at least twice a year to visit family. I always get 2 pepper jack and green onion and some 3 cheese sausage." He says, "Well, a few years ago, turned a buddy of his onto 3 cheese and, of course, had to bring him some back on the next trip from Mississippi." He says, "Matt, I have gone from a small cooler bag full to a 25-gallon cooler and filling it full my last trip. I'm coming back in October. My son and his wife are having their first child, and I may have to upgrade the size of my cooler again. Country Pleasing is needed," he says, "in North Carolina." Signed, Go Dogs from Hill Dog, who's in New Bern, North Carolina. Well, thanks so much for the story, and I'm going to pass that along, all right, to the fine folks at Country Meat Packers on Highway 49 in Florence, Mississippi. I will do it. All right, so what do you think about the thoughts from Jeff Collins, former defensive coordinator at State, head coach around college football? Let's see what you think about that. Let me back. We got a lot of comments on the live thread here for the show. The live comments thread. I got it all in one thread right here on the live stream. So let me pull these up for you right here. Jimmy commented on YouTube, says, "Matt, I don't know why you don't like interviews. You do a fine job. That was great." Well, I thank you very much. No, I guess, you know what, Jimmy? I don't like or necessarily even believe in obligatory interviews. And like with this is a genuine thing. And maybe that's why it comes across as, you enjoyed it. And then maybe it's why I would do a better, job of having a conversation with someone. One is I know Jeff. And then the other is, like, it's a genuine thing, right? There's this conversation going on out there about offensive line stuff. And I've got an opinion, a thought on it, but somebody who's really been in the trenches at practices and games in multiple schools and different systems might have a more keen perspective. So I was genuinely interested to hear what he had to say about that stuff, right? So as long as it doesn't feel like we're doing interviews because we're obligated to fill some time with you on the radio. If I really got a purpose, really something I want to talk about, then it makes a lot of sense. And I don't, Jimmy, I don't mean this in any sort of selfish way at all. But what I do feel like a lot of times, it's only a 2-hour radio show that I do here with you. And a lot of times in that amount of time, I feel like if it's a football or a sports topic, a lot of times, I'm pretty confident in what I see and what my evaluation is. I don't necessarily need, to ask questions, but when I do, I will. And then I also sometimes feel like, if you tune into my show it probably shouldn't be all interviews, right? Because you probably want to hear what I have to say on some stuff too. So there's a fine line, and I appreciate the encouragement, and I probably should do more of that for sure. And maybe because of you, Jimmy, and that encouragement, maybe I'll make that effort. Blind Squirrel enjoyed it, said excellent interview. Percy commented on Facebook here on the live comments thread. Percy says, good interview with Coach Collins. Just believe this group of offensive line at State will be successful in the new system. As an old O-line coach, it was harder to teach pass pro than run block schemes. He says, now that was a few years ago, and he signed at Hale State. Thanks, Percy. I appreciate you listening, and thanks for your comments. Jason in Flagstaff, Arizona, has been saying and pointing to that week 2 game against Arizona as potentially a trouble spot. And sometimes he's brought up, what if you got to get 2 or 3 games under your belt as an O-line to really start to kind of figure it out and be consistent and that sort of thing. And Arizona's an improved team, and they got a very mobile quarterback, all that, So he commented, he said, bingo. The first 2 games, he says, is why I've been pointing at that Arizona game and telling people not to just chalk it up. And he says, enjoy your short-lived cold front. Yeah, it's out of here pretty much. By tonight, it's out of here. And in regards to the interview with Coach Collins, Jason said he just explained in much better detail and technical terms what I've been saying for 6 months. Folks are expecting 9 to 10 wins, second and third in the West, are fooling themselves. And that's according to Jason in Arizona. He doesn't see it playing out that way this year. Blind Squirrel commented on the YouTube comments thread and says, I've always heard great things about Coach Collins. Allegedly, it's a little easier to say now that he isn't at Georgia Tech, but Jeff seems to be genuinely a good person. Yeah, he is, man. Great guy. Like, you love to play for him. And I'll tell you, Blind Squirrel, he's one of those that, so when things, they did a pretty decent job, and it was not an easy situation. He took over, right, in that transition at Georgia Tech, and it would have been easier if it was going on now because transfer portal, you can, ship guys out, ship guys in, and help everybody out, and it's a little smoother deal. That's no excuse, and he wouldn't make that excuse. But to give you an example, when things fell apart last year at Georgia Tech, Jeff, if you look closely, he wasn't one of these guys who was looking out for himself. He worked really hard to help everybody on his staff, everybody like on-field, off-field staff, everybody that was out of there that had come in there to be with him. His first priority was to do everything possible to find them all a good transition and another landing spot before he even worried about himself. And in today's era, that is rare. And so, I think a lot of the guy. Aaron commented on Facebook, said the O-line are road graders, but we're in the air raid, so I don't think they'll have that much of a problem. Okay, Aaron, yeah, I'm a little in there too. Like, I'm not over here on this one side of they are absolutely going to struggle. No offensive line, no matter who they are, can come out of the air raid and the very next year be, 50% run or more, whatever that percentage is going to be, and tighter splits and have success. It can't happen. I'm not there. But I'm also not in the camp of, it'll be easy, nothing to it. Here's where I am on it. One, State is really fortunate that in this transition, they've got really good, versatile players. Prime example, Nick Jones. The only spot on the whole offensive line that dude hasn't played is center, and that's just because they always had a center. He's played every position on the O-line and played it well. He's actually built like a prototypical guard, like a really athletic guard. But because he's so athletic, he's played tackle and played it well. Dollar Bill Johnson has played right guard, right tackle, left tackle. Cameron Jones has played them all. So, and they're all old. If you look at your first 7 or 8, you got one sophomore or whatever he is in there, and the rest of them are seniors and grad seniors. So they're really fortunate that in the transition, they are very experienced. And you do have Cole Smith, the play center, who is a prototypical zone run block center, and a backup in Lasoya, who's a prototypical guard / backup center, and Nick Jones, and all these things. They're fortunate. They keep them healthy. They're fortunate. But as Coach Collins said, the reality is they will be a better, more effective offensive line in week 3 than they will be in week 1. They got to go do it against somebody. And how well they're coached by Coach Friend and Barbay will have a lot to do with it. Sven was commenting on the YouTube comments thread here about Coach Collins when he went to Georgia Tech, and he says he didn't have the right guys at Georgia Tech. The team was absolutely horrible, to be honest. Blind Squirrel said he agrees that he had kind of inherited a mess over there. A mess on the flats, huh? Chuck commented and said, Matt, I respect your opinion, but I consider the green onion to be the pinnacle of sausage greatness. Yeah, everybody has their favorites if you've tried a few. And I'm going out on a limb here and different than everybody else. But Chuck, let's just say if tomorrow, if I got to be careful saying this because people will take it wrong way and run with it. Total hypothetical. This isn't happening. But if you were to wake up tomorrow and something had happened and they go, we're not making jalapeno and cheddar anymore, then immediately black pepper and cheddar would be my favorite. So I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just a fan of some types of pepper. Jalapeno, black pepper, maybe. But if you haven't had the black pepper and cheddar, get your hands on it. Trust me. Blind Squirrel said somebody send Jeff Collins some country pleasing sausage. We ought to do that. We just might make that happen. All right. Rolling along with you. By the way, something happened yesterday afternoon on the radio. If you listen live in the afternoons in the Jackson and Metro area, that you might have missed. And I have a comment about that when we come back. Plus your texts on the Country Pleasing text line, more of your comments on the live stream, all of that and more. And you can call me. Phone lines are open. Call me on the Davini phone. I'll give you those numbers coming up. I'm Matt in the Farm Bureau Insurance studio. Stay with us.
Have you ever wished for one product that would clean and shine almost everything in your house? Here it is, Clean and Shine. Like magic, Clean and Shine leaves a nice shine on fine wood furniture, so you don't need furniture polish. It cleans and shines mirrors, so you don't need glass cleaner for mirrors. It cleans and shines refrigerators, like this kitchen product. Even countertops, tile, and vinyl. Try new Clean and Shine, the foam that cleans and shines almost everything in your house.
Someday when people look at me, they'll say, there goes Roy Hobbs, the best there ever was.
TriStar Pictures presents Robert Redford in The Natural, the story of a father and a son.
You got a gift, Roy, but it's not enough.
Of love.
He means the world to me.
And desire.
I'm not waiting for true love to come along, Roy.
A champion.
A Roy Hobbs comes along once, maybe twice in everybody's lifetime.
And his destiny.
With or without the records, they'll remember you.
Best there is now, and best there ever will be.
I wouldn't bet against me.
I already have.
Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley, Barbara Hershey, Robert Prosky, and Richard Farnsworth as Red. The Natural.
Do you know me? Would you believe I'm Bugs Bunny? I'm also the voice of many other cartoon characters. But in here, they don't care if I'm Elmer Fudd. So I carry an American Express card, the one card I need for travel and entertaining, for business and pleasure. Why, without this, the only way I'd get any attention is by saying, that's all, folks.
To apply for a card, call 800-528-8000.
The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
The following is a presentation of TBS Sports. exclusively on Superstation TBS. Superstation TBS presents the Atlanta Braves, America's team. Atlanta Braves baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that makes Budweiser the king of beers. This Bud's for you. By the official airline of the Atlanta Braves, Delta. We love to fly, and it shows. And by Eckerd Drugs, America's family drugstore.
If a man you've never met before suddenly gives you flowers, that's elation. The exciting new fragrance from Impulse.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm fink on a friend to get a promotion?
Yeah, yes, yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court.
I'm here to strip for Dan Fielding.
Thursday.
Oh, what a meal, oh,
Hamburger Helper Lasagna.
for your family.
Authentic Italian taste.
Hearty robusto, but not too spicy, eh?
Hamburger Helper Lasagna turns your plain hamburger into a delicious Italian meal with authentic Italian taste. Curly Italian noodles, rich tomato sauce, and a better blend of spices.
Hamburger helper. Lasagna. Helper, hamburger helper. Make a great meal, oh.
1059 and coming to you worldwide at thezone1059.com.
All right. Back with you in the Bureau. I think Will is right. He said my two favorite flavors are jalapeno and cheddar and black pepper and cheddar. And Will said, just sounds like you're a fan of cheddar, man. that might be it. Debbie is a fan of pork and pineapple flavor. She said she called it the bomb diggity. And so anytime y'all want to use the word bomb diggity here on the show, just feel free. You got, creative license, go right ahead. We'll make it make sense and we'll put it on the air. Bomb diggity is a very underused word, in my opinion, in the English language. Nick texts the show, country pleasing text line, says our local meat market makes a, what do you call it, dill pickle and jalapeno sausage, and boy, is it good. Ooh, I bet. Hey, speaking of that, I just had some pickle chips. They're potato chips that are pickle flavor. Beaver, you ever had pickle flavored chips?
I think I have.
Okay.
Dill pickled chips.
Yeah.
I think I have, but I guess I didn't like them because I can't.
Right.
I haven't had them since.
You hadn't gone out in search of them, in other words. Years and years ago, Beaver, this is how crazy a person's memory can be. Okay, so you say right there you can't remember a specific time of going and looking for pickle chips. I can remember the year. It was 25 years ago, 1998. I know the apartment I was living in there off of Montgomery Street in Starkville as a student athlete. I was living with my roommate Paul Mooney. There was a gas station right next to it. I remember going in there, and there on display, Beaver, was a package of I think it was Golden Flake potato chips, and it was cheeseburger. Huh. Yeah, cheeseburger flavored chips, and I got them, and it was delicious. And never since then have I ever seen another bag of cheeseburger flavor. I mean, I could taste the bun, the burger, the cheese, and the pickle. I could taste it all. Those was the best bag of potato chips I've ever gotten. And I would
like to try that.
You would love it. It tasted like just a plain old, like if you were to go, Beaver, to the McDonald's drive-thru and like get a Happy Meal with a cheeseburger in it. That's what it tasted like, that cheeseburger. That's what it tasted like. We got a fan on the Country Pleasing text line of the 3 cheese flavored Country Pleasing sausage. It is really good now. It's a treat also. You would like that. All right. Hey, Beaver, this involves you. I made a statement earlier that I was going to have a comment about something that happened on the radio right here, if you're listening live on 105.9 The Zone in Jackson, yesterday afternoon. Reportedly, both by word of mouth and social media, according to both sources, Chris Brooks himself was on the radio live with Jake Wimberly for an extended period of time yesterday. Confirm or deny that, if you don't mind confirming that for me, Beaver.
I refuse. But I will say yes, he was.
Was this like a special occasion? Did this require like twisting his arm? How in the world did y'all, number one, how in the world did y'all get Chris to be on the radio, let alone come do it in person, let alone for an extended period of time?
Well, because as we learned yesterday, apparently there's a brand new Chris Brooks. Chris Brooks came in here and everything was different about this man. And I say that because he was supposed to be here at 4. He was going to be with us 4 to 6. I expected him fully to come in about 4:08. The man showed up at about 5 till. So he was on time. That's number one difference.
Yeah.
I've never known him to be on time when he tells us he's coming in. So there's number one. Then this man came in and he made statements like, well, first off, he referred to himself like 6 minutes into the show. He referred to himself as third person, in the third person. He told you very specifically that he is an expert.
Okay. On what?
On high school and junior college football, everything that was being discussed. Because
really?
the overall reason here for him to come in was his magazine is coming out, I think it's supposed to be today.
Okay.
Maybe tomorrow. But so he was coming in to talk about his magazine, give a preview of the upcoming, high school season and such.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he was getting lippy, man. He called himself an expert. He said he knows everything about high school and junior college teams in the state. He told Jake Wimberly to his face, "You need to get in shape. You're fat."
You're serious?
Yes.
Oh, boy, Chris. Which is not true. Jake is not fat by any stretch. But for Chris to just come right out and say it to him. So you're telling me that it's like Chris has all of a sudden gotten, like, I don't know, like confident bordering on arrogant or something?
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
That is wild, because it's sort of the opposite of what he always was when he had the show here with you.
But I tell you one thing that hasn't changed, though. That man it's hard to get him to stay on topic.
He was jumping around.
Oh, yeah.
That's great. Well, look, I guess I'm just going to be honest here, okay? I'm going to put this out there, Bieber. There have been some times here in the recent past that I have reached out to Chris about either being on this show to discuss something or to maybe come and be in the studio and do this show. I even offered to pay him, okay, to come and do this show. I don't mean like to pay him to be a guest, but paid him to host it when I was going to be out. I have not yet found what would work, what would be successful in getting Chris to come on my show. And I'm starting to become, this is where this is coming from. I began to become a little insecure, thinking, man, have I made Chris mad at some point? Have I said something? Did I go too far picking on him, or did I say something that Like, I don't know if I've made him mad. I can't get him to come on the show. And then he pops up and he hangs out with Jake in the studio for 2 hours yesterday.
Well, now let me try to comfort you.
Okay.
Because I think we're probably dealing with the same Chris Brooks. I think all these what seemed like changes yet were just specific to yesterday, because he also said that in the past 2 nights he had slept a total of like an hour. So I think delirious? A lot of this, I think so. I think a lot of it was from deliriousness. So, because I remember when you tried to get him to fill in, it was earlier this summer.
Yeah.
Maybe he had actually slept the night before.
Yeah. Well, in his defense, he was like going on vacation and all at the same time. So I'm only halfway kidding. But I'm a little jealous that he would come and hang out for 2 hours and just willy-nilly and promote the magazine and all that kind of stuff. I just don't think he wants to talk to me. So that's all. Chris, wherever you are, it's just being honest. Okay? Just being. And here's the thing, Chris, I didn't know. I would have called you and talked to you about this personally, Chris, if you're listening. But I didn't know about any of this until kind of like right before we came on the air, and I didn't have time to call you. Okay? So, Chris, if you're listening, unless I hear from you, I'll be getting in touch with you. I got to get to the bottom of this. I don't know what the deal is.
I really thought you were about to say, unless I hear from you, I'm going to assume that you don't like me.
Maybe I should go that route. All points bulletin. Chris Brooks, putting the word out. If I don't hear from you, Chris, I'm just going to assume you're ticked off. I like Beaver's approach better. It's more entertaining. All right, listen, the hour is just about up, but we're not done today. We got another hour to go, so plenty of time to kind of get into some of this. And over here, let's talk about it. Over here on the live stream, Will is on the YouTube feed, and he says that he missed part of the show yesterday. Did we talk about Missouri passing the name, image, and likeness law that lets high school seniors get name, image, and likeness money, but only if they commit to an in-state school? Well, we have talked about that. Whenever the news came out, I saw it. I didn't really cover much in terms of the recruiting, but he points it out. There's this number one defensive lineman in the country. He goes to a high school in Missouri, so he commits to Missouri. He's already making money in high school off his name, image, and likeness. That's the law in Missouri. It's an is what it is. Okay, it's not the University of Missouri's fault. They're doing what they can do. Every school is going to use what it has to its advantages to try to recruit with. My question is, for you, is it time for Mississippi and its lawmakers to look at the environment and pass its own law that is similar? What do you think? Hour 2 coming up. Stick around.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm think on a friend to get a promotion?
Yeah, yes, Tom. Yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court. Thursday.
For over half a century, dairymen have tried to capture in cans the flavor of pure, fresh milk. And now Foremost has discovered the secret with an evaporated milk that's closest by far to fresh milk itself.
Kind of hard to believe, isn't it? An evaporated milk that doesn't have that old-fashioned evaporated milk taste. But it's true, and you can prove it. You know how most evaporated milks taste in coffee. The flavor goes flat. But try Foremost. You'll see it's white, the way milk ought to look, not drab tan like other brands. And when you taste it, well, if you're anything like me, you'll never even know it isn't pure, fresh cream. You try it and see. That's Foremost, the closest thing in cans to pure, fresh milk. Remember, your family gets the most from Foremost.
Coca-Cola, come on, girl, gotta share a Coke with you. Let the feeling show through. You wanna live a little
special moments. Times of your life you'll want to remember in pictures.
Smile, Howard. Smile.
To help make those pictures look as good as they can, make sure Kodak paper is behind them. If you don't see these words, it isn't Kodak paper. Just look for this sign when you get your pictures. Kodak paper, for a good look at the times of your life.
Gee, wasn't that fun? Come and get it. Come and get it.
Stop the confusion. Stop the confusion. Everybody wants to get into the act with Kellogg's Variety Pack. Buster wants the cornflakes, Pop wants a pep. Mama loves the Raisin Bran, Mama is hip. Sister loves Rice Krispies, and there's Uncle Jack. He loves Kellogg's shredded wheat. Kellogg's makes it fun to eat. Breakfast with Variety Pack. Okay, folks, there's your favorite individual box of cereal, fresh from Kellogg's Variety Pack, untouched by human hands, except your own. That don't mean you gotta eat with them. Each individual box comes to your FOD, fresh on delivery from Battle Creek, right to your own dish. Yeah, everybody wants to get into the act with Kellogg's Variety Pack. Yes, sir, Kellogg's Variety Pack.
Here comes the one, the delicious one. Heinz is the big rich one. There's only one ketchup with this flavor pouring on. So thick, so rich, so second to none.
Only one ketchup stands for this kind of thickness with this kind of taste. Heinz.
Heinz is the big rich one.
I love the rich, whole wheat goodness of Kellogg's Mini Wheats. But the delicious frosted side makes the rich kid in me open wide.
The nutritious shredded wheat helps keep me on my toes. But the little ballerina in me thinks the taste steals the show.
Kellogg's Mini Wheats, wholesome shredded wheat for the adult in you, great taste for the kid in you. So they're delicious and nutritious.
The whole grain wheat really packs a crunch, but the delicious taste gives it just the right punch.
Like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives.
Conversations.
Just 3 weeks. Even better.
Since Babbel's lessons are designed by language experts and voiced by real native speakers.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was, their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right. And they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that. But irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright.
And worldwide.
Now, here we go.
At thezone1059.com.
Hey! Here we go. Hour number 2 of the show, off and running with you on this Thursday. It is a Thursday. I've confirmed that earlier today. I was convinced it was Friday. It never has been Friday. It's been Thursday. the whole time in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. We're out here today on this Thursday, staying connected to you because of C Spire, the #1 network in Mississippi. C Spire, customer inspired. Check them out, cspire.com. You can text the show, call, comment on the live stream, and quite a few of those to get to here. We're not in catch-up mode, but we're on track, but we got some to get to here coming up right now. By the way, if you want to be a part of the show, you can be. Lots of ways, as I just said, for you to do it. Text the show on the Country Pleasin' text line, Country Pleasin' Sausage. Made right here in Mississippi. The number to text, 885-3776. The 601 number, 885-3776. Another way to remember it is 885-ESPN. Call me on the Divini phone, Divini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson, your Kubota dealer. 995-1059. That's the number to call. Be on the show. 601 number, 995-1059. And if you're on the live stream, watching on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, hey to y'all, feel free to type in a comment, hit comment or submit or post or whatever it says. Post a comment, and it'll pop up right here on the thread, the live stream comments thread right here on the show, where just a little bit ago, it was Will on YouTube who brought it up, that story from earlier in the week, the #1 defensive lineman recruit in the country. He goes to high school in Missouri, and he committed to the University of Missouri. And most likely a lot of, to do with that would be the fact that the state of Missouri passed a law, a name, image, and likeness law, that high school players in their state could begin to go ahead and earn NIL money and remain eligible if they commit to go to an in-state college program. So how about that? And so he commented later and said, well, no wonder they flipped the #1 defensive lineman for 2024. So there you go. And what I said is, okay, it's not the University of Missouri's fault at all. If you don't like, it's not their fault. They're using what they have at their disposal to recruit, and they all look for every advantage they have. And so in a state like Missouri, if you got a great high school player there who can go ahead and begin to load up on cash through quote unquote name, image, and likeness, just by making sure that he goes to an in-state school, that is a huge advantage for them in recruiting those in-state kids. So what if we propose the question and begin to discuss it? Should Mississippi do the same thing? Now, all these states have NIL laws, and it is a little confusing because, they've popped up at different times over the years, over the last 2-3 years, and many of them are different in one way or another. Yeah, I could be wrong on this, so y'all correct me if you know better, but I don't think the surrounding states surrounding Mississippi, like Alabama, Tennessee, Louisiana, Florida, I know it doesn't border it, but you know what I'm saying. I don't think those around in the SEC footprint have laws like that one. Now, you do have SEC footprint states, and Missouri is obviously one of them, that have a law where they say, the NCAA cannot come in here legally enforce and punish anybody, any individual or any school for any NIL reason. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't think they have that in Alabama. I don't think they've passed that for whatever reason. And I'm sure with stuff like that, I am sure there are nuances that I don't understand or grasp right now in talking about it. You and I both. If we were to sit down and talk with a lawmaker. However, just remember, a couple of weeks ago when we were at Divini Equipment, sitting in their showroom one day and having a radio show and kicking it around and talking fishing and hunting and a little bit of everything, including sports. You remember that one of our state representatives from Attala County, Jason White, who is the Speaker Pro Tem. So he'd probably be the next Speaker of the House. And he sat down and joined us. His son's a quarterback over at MRA. He's a Southern Miss commit. And one of the first things he said was that earlier that day he had been on the phone with somebody who was wondering and asking, hey, when is Mississippi going to look at maybe changing its NIL law to kind of open it up and help the in-state schools even more? Okay, well, there's someone who is a current lawmaker who's in that House seat after being elected, and he was again. You know, again, kind of speaker pro tem, fast track maybe to be the next speaker. It's a nice position to be in, and he's fielding phone calls about that. Well, it tells me that it may be a bigger conversation behind the scenes right now in our state than we realize out here openly and publicly. You know, if that guy, this isn't like somebody called you or called me. If that guy's got phone calls, well, who's calling him? It's not like I'm picking up the phone and calling him, just a voter going, hey, when are we going to change it? It's more likely that it's somebody somewhere, maybe at a school or maybe involved with a school, going, we need to have these conversations. Here's what's going on. I just wonder how likely it is. You know, and you have the IHL board here in the state, and so it's a little bit of a different setup, I know, than, say, a place like Missouri. I mean, the state of Missouri's got a lot of colleges and universities, smaller ones, but it's got one big one. And it's got one in a massive conference, and that's the University of Missouri. So, a little different there in terms of the advantage it would be for the University of Missouri in getting that law passed. It'd be like going, you know, Arkansas. Arkansas got a whole bunch of colleges and universities, anywhere from, you know, NAIA all the way up to D3, D2, FCS, Group of 5 in the FBS, but one Power 5 school in the whole state of Arkansas, and that's the Arkansas Razorbacks. So they pass a law like that. And you wonder, okay, why wouldn't they? And again, I'm not here discussing all the drawbacks. I guess I'm just saying it can't go. In these other states, if you're in the conference with Missouri and you saw what happened last week, where because of their state law, in other words, we don't know that it's the factor. You might presume or assume, but we know this, it doesn't hurt to have that state law. And so an in-state kid who's the number one defensive lineman in the country, and they're able to get him to commit to Missouri, it certainly can't hurt, right? And so when that happens, you just know, well, if it goes too much further without some major shifting and forming of a structure that everybody's going to play by, and it continues to just kind of be up to each school and up to each state what they're going to do and how, you know, and how much a fan base wants to basically donate to the collective, then a place like Mississippi, and you have competing schools, obviously, in this state, is going to have to, I think, they'll have no choice. They're going to have to heavily consider going back in, looking at what Missouri passed, and do something similar here. And it'll just be one after the other. I really think that's the case. All right, some of your comments here. Let's get into it. Dad of Squez texted the show and said, I absolutely agree with a law like that. However, they don't get any money unless they go to Mississippi State. Yeah, well, I mean, look, you know, being honest, right? Right, Squez? I want to go to my school. J-Rock texts the show and he says, what if the high school player starts getting the money and commits to an in-state school and then at the last minute changes his mind? Does he have to give the money back? Well, J-Rock, again, it would depend on what the agreement was to begin with, right? That's right. It would have, that's what it would depend on. So legally, do we have paperwork? Okay, because, all right, follow this train of thought with me just for a second, J-Rock, and I won't go too far. If a state passes a law that says, right now, according to the state law here, the NCAA cannot come in here and punish anything NIL related. Well, they've passed that in Missouri. Well, if they pass that, one thing the NCAA proposes to punish people for would be putting it in writing that this is a pay for play. Like, we're paying you to commit here and to attend, like pay to attend. That's a big no-no. It would be against NCAA rules, and they normally would enforce that, right? And hand out penalties if they found out that was the case. But if the state says you can't penalize us for that, then in that case, they would be free, according to their state law, to make some sort of written out contract and agreement with the player. Now, that may hurt your chances. He may go, oh, I don't want to sign anything, and there's real life for you. But they could do it because the state law exists. Does that make sense, J-Rock? Grizz texts the show and says, Ryan Wingo, 4-star receiver from St. Louis, will also be choosing Missouri over Tennessee because of the NIL law. The defensive lineman went for $1 million. Tennessee matched it, but the fact that he gets the money faster at Missouri won out. How about that? How about a high school kid for his commitment getting $1 million? Whew. That's getting on up there. St. Louis Vic texts the show. Previous subject, said Matt. Sadly, I just finished my latest link of original country pleasing sausage. He says he splits them down the middle, fries them, puts cheddar cheese on it, regular old white bread. Boy, oh boy, it was good. I bet. Fry it up, put some cheese on it, put it in a bun, eat it up. That's great. All right. So, over on the live comments thread on the live stream, everybody said, yeah, Mississippi should get their law to match Missouri's. Blind Squirrel Sports says he's a Georgia fan, says Georgia ought to do it too. I don't know if Georgia needs any more help. Sven said, State, Ole Miss, and Missouri will not be able to match up with Ohio State, Alabama, and Georgia. They stack 5 stars 3 deep on the O-line and D-line, for example. Georgia had 65 4- and 5-star players in 2022. Is that not unbelievable? You know, is that not unbelievable? Sven, you remember that comment a few years ago from Dan Mullen when he was at State and they were getting ready to play Alabama, and he said, look, the rosters aren't the same. Alabama's got more 5 stars on its punt team than we do on our whole team. And the media in the room went, ah, and then they stopped for a minute and realized, oh, wait a minute, he's telling the truth. That was not meant to be funny. It's a fact. Whew, what a gap. Now, yeah, truthfully, you can only put 11 on the field at a time, but you can put your 11 best on the field at a time. Good night. Will commented on the live thread and said, I'd imagine a lot of state legislators are already drafting bills that compete with Missouri's. Out-of-state recruiting in Texas and Florida will be really hard if they pass a similar law. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, it would be tough. It would. Chuck commented and said, I expect the Missouri law to face a challenge in the court system. If it survives, I'd wager you'll see those laws popping up all over the place. So if it gets challenged, makes it through, then you'll see it pop up. I mean, there's a lot of smart people looking at it and talking to the legal professionals and trying to figure those things out. I agree with Will when he said I think there's probably a lot of those conversations going on behind the scenes. Now, what do you think about this comment from Will on the live comments thread? He said, Saban might as well hang it up if Texas, Florida, and California and Georgia all pass similar laws. He said, heck, losing Florida recruiting alone would really hurt the Tide. Yeah, it's interesting how the conversation has, because of what went on in Missouri, has sort of now moved and gravitated over towards this idea that it would make you sort of hyper-focused on in-state recruiting, right, because of that advantage. And I don't, if you really stop and think about it, yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. Because let's just say, you know, if you were to go to, you know, really simple finite example, just say if the top 10 players in Florida every year, and let's say 5 of them go out of state somewhere. I don't know what the numbers actually are. Let's just say half. 5 of the top 10 go out of state every year from Florida. Well, if Florida were to pass some law that says, hey, if you're a high school deal, you can go ahead and start making money in high school, name, image, and likeness, if you commit to an in-state college. So now let's say, 9 out of 10? So you'd still have some, it'd just be much fewer of those top prospects go out of state. Right? Yeah, so it would shift it. It would. So if you just want to throw a hypothetical out there and wonder about it, in the context of this conversation, and what they did in Missouri, if everybody did that, would you look up and college rosters at some point down the road made up of more in-state players than we have right now? Would that be the result of it? It's interesting. It's worth thinking about. See, I don't know, like ultimately in-state, you would judge it by high school recruits, because all the big-time rosters are going to have a lot of transfers, right? Because when you look at this situation, like that number 1 defensive lineman, he gets a report, allegedly, somebody rumored to be, $1 million to go ahead and commit to Missouri because of the Missouri state law, commit to an in-state school, go ahead and make money as a high schooler. Tennessee was going to match it, but he's going to get the money earlier because it's of their law. But it's just one commitment, and you go there, even if you go there, play 1 year, now you're wide open again. Again, unless there's some sort of written agreement like we talked about. If there's not a written agreement, which is a contract, no contract, even if he plays 1 year, he could pocket that money senior year of high school, play 1 year at Missouri, and skedaddle. And now you're in the portal and got everybody else bidding for you again. And that's a scenario like what Lane Kiffin talked about at SEC Media Days. That's why it is so, uncertain. All of a sudden it looks like it's so uncertain. Jimmy commented on the live thread, said, are all of those states going to rewrite contract law? Many of these kids aren't 18, so effectively you can't hold them to any NIL contract. No, but you could take booster money and pay them, get them to commit, maybe hang on to it, keep them happy, right, without fearing the NCAA, which is a total turnabout of what it used to be. White Denzel on the Country Pleasing text line. He texts the show at 885-3776. He says, while our state legislators should pass a bill like Missouri, he said, but in their eyes, there's more pressing bills that need to be passed before a bill like that even gets brought up. I mean, it's true. It's true, but stranger things have happened, though, right? You say pressing issues. Well, go out here the next couple of years and get left behind in recruiting and have 2 schools go 2-10, and all of a sudden you got a pressing issue. I'm just saying. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't. I really don't know if real, sure enough, definite conversations are happening behind the scenes in Mississippi to discuss a similar type thing in this state that would give State, Ole Miss, Southern Miss, and even other in-state schools, but particularly State and Ole Miss being in the SEC, that would give them some sort of big advantage in recruiting in-state highly touted prospects, because they could accept an NIL deal according to that law as a senior in this state if they commit to a school in this state, and it would give them a huge advantage with those kids. Whether or not it is being kicked around or discussed or whatever, I don't know. But 2 things about it that we do know are facts. We're in the same conference with Missouri and compete with them on the playing field and in recruiting. And look at what Missouri has done, what they've done, period. And they got an advantage. And you go, well, it's a Missouri kid. Yeah, but there are any number of times where a kid from a state has been recruited out of there, and it could be just a place he wants to go, or he wants to get away from home, or there's a family connection, or a past connection, so it's, but then the other thing is, Missouri's done what they've done, but the other thing is, like I told you, right here on this show a couple of weeks ago, the Speaker Pro Tem of the House of Representatives in Mississippi sat down and within the first minute and a half said, got off the phone today with somebody who's asking me, when is Mississippi going to reshape its NIL law to give us more of an advantage? Well, not putting any words in his mouth, he didn't tell me who the conversation was with. He did say it makes a lot of sense. You look around at what other state laws are and go, look, we may not have any choice unless there's some structure put on, some lid put on this thing. We may not have any choice, right? And I would assume that for someone like him having those types of conversations, it's not some guy off the street like me picking up the phone and calling him. It's more like somebody at one of these schools who is involved in this stuff to begin with going, hey, listen, it's time for us to start talking about this. All right. Hour 2 underway. Got a little ways to go with you today on this Thursday in the Bureau. Stick around.
Today's game from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Time was their breakfasts were gloomy. They just didn't feel right, and they didn't know a delicious cereal could help their sad plight. So they tried this and tried that, but irregularity kept coming back all the same. For as often the case, lack of bulk in their diet was actually to blame. Once at the grocer's, the wife was so drooping and sagging that a neighbor said, "Get on Kellogg's All-Bran wagon. Why, All-Bran has a flavor that's scrumptious to eat. So rich and nut-like, makes breakfast a treat. And of course, Kellogg's All-Bran can help you each day to youthful regularity, the dietary way." "Well, it might do some good," said the wife with a sigh. "Guess I'll get some All-Bran and give it a try." Soon, breakfasts at her house were happy and bright, for delicious Kellogg's All-Bran set their day off right. Yes, All-Bran supplies all the bulk in your diet, you see, that you may need for youthful regularity. And no half-brand cereal possibly can provide this help as surely as Kellogg's All-Bran. A delicious, non-habit-forming aid to your diet. You're sure to like All-Bran. Just buy it and try it.
Get on the Kellogg's All-Bran wagon with the best bran in the land. The cereal that tastes bran, the cereal that's All-Bran, a breakfast treat that can't be beat. Be a regular guy and climb aboard the All-Bran wagon. Eat Kellogg's All-Bran.
What is the secret of this enchanted book? What wonders are hidden within its pages? What magical spell does it cast on all who read it? What is the secret of the never-ending story?
But that's impossible!
You will enter a world where a young boy's imagination becomes a vivid reality. The world of Atreyu and Artax, the Rockbiter, and a good and kind gnome. A world that is vast and eternal, treacherous and dazzling, unforgettable and free. Yeah! For anyone who's ever made a wish, believed in a fantasy, or had a dream, this is the never-ending story.
a what?
It's a swing wing. It's a wing wing. A brand new transit grand fun thing.
It's a what?
It's a swing wing. A fun thing. And now it's your favorite store thing.
It's a what?
Mazda announces some great news for truck buyers. Right now, you can beat the already outstanding value of the $67.95 Mazda SE5. Introducing Mazda SE5 Plus 5. $625 worth of extra features at no extra charge from Mazda. You get a bed liner, mud guards, sliding rear window, floor mats, and AM/FM stereo. That's a $625 value at no extra charge. But hurry, offer ends soon.
All right, let's do it. Here we go, rolling along with you today in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio. We started the day with a question. Will State's offensive line struggle a little bit this year, making a transition from pass blocking a lot in the air raid to run blocking more in this offense under Barbay, from wide splits for 3 years in the air raid to now tighter splits, more similar to what everybody else does. And so footwork and working together and the kind of conditioning you have to run block more and, all those kinds of things. So the question is posed, are they going to struggle? Some people think they will, and people have weighed in, think there'll be a transition period. You won't get to hear the whole thing here, but we started out the show. I gave this to you in its entirety. Here's a portion of it here. Earlier today, just a little bit ago, I talked with Jeff Collins, the former defensive coordinator of Mississippi State under Dan Mullen. Then he went to Florida as DC. Then he went to Temple as the head coach. And most recently, he's the head coach at Georgia Tech. And he's got a neat perspective, not only as a coach at different places, but he went to be a head coach at a place that had to make a massive overhaul in offensive philosophy and system. And so I thought you'd find that interesting. And our first couple of questions are about that, just kind of his overall thoughts on the situation at State, the conversion back to a more typical spread option, zone spread offense, and what kind of things they may have to do to get it to work. Here is a portion of that interview, the beginning portion of the interview with Jeff Collins.
Really do appreciate.
I want to talk line of scrimmage.
Sure.
Yeah, our friends up on the line of scrimmage, who they are the reason wins and losses happen, but we all pay attention to quarterbacks,
And State's got a good one.
And they do, and it's a big part of it. But there's been a conversation going on about State's offensive line transitioning from air raid to a more typical kind of, spread option run. Just on the surface, when you see that, what are your thoughts about an offensive line making that transition?
Yeah, and it's always an interesting conversation. I've gone through it in my career as a head coach, the transition from a heavy run to more of a balanced attack. And over in Starkville, they're doing the opposite of that. It's a air raid, pass heavy offense. A lot of the runs were predicated off of draw schemes as well. So a heavy emphasis on pass and draw and those kind of things. And then I've known Kevin Barbay, I guess it's going on 8 years now, because he and I were together at Florida with Jim McElwain, and, think very highly of him and what he's done as an offensive coordinator, especially the last 2 years. And, I think the thing that does help over in Starkville is they do have 4 returning starters across the line. And even though they were, a big half pass emphasis, offense, I think one of the biggest things is the mentality shift. I think because I've watched Kevin a bunch, a lot of 3-point stance, a lot of play action and downhill run, stretch, inside zone, gap scheme. And I think a lot of that, comes with obviously the shift in the fundamentals, the shift in executing out of a more of a 3-point stance. But I think the shift in mentality where we're going to run the ball and build play actions off of it to set up some explosive plays. I watched a bunch of the spring game, and I think it's a process that's going to go through, but I have confidence in Kevin and what he's going to be able to do.
Yeah. So you mentioned something interesting to me. I'm thinking about it from like a purely fundamental standpoint. We talk about schemes and all this stuff, but it's guys, hands, feet, legs, butts, and muscles have got to make it happen. So 3-point stance. So you mentioned that, right? Because in the air raid, big wide splits, and even your guards are up on 2. They're basically a tackle in space because of the wide. So that's a big adjustment really for the interior offensive lineman, right?
Right. And then too, just the mentality, a lot of those times are set up to be one-on-one matchups a lot of times in the passing game and even in the run game too. But now you shift to more, the protection, the variances of slide protection, going back in protection, all those kind of things, zoning off certain sides of protections that you have to do in a normal traditional offense. Okay.
So for you as a coach, where you've had a spring, a summer, and now you're in fall, they do have a bunch of it's like all seniors and grad seniors, multiple grad seniors that are all going to play for. That's like their first 7 are all seniors and grad seniors.
Yep.
So when you see that, and we got to go hand on the ground more, we're closer together. So we got to really operate like a zone defense in basketball. We operate as one unit. How tough is that transition? As some people are saying, are they going to have to play a game or two before they really figure it out? Or do you see it as a coach of, we can coach that up and they can be ready to go game 1?
Yeah, there's nothing like going against an opponent from a different colored jersey that you're going to have to play against.
Sure.
And the variances, you get kind of used to, I know Coach Arnett and the defensive scheme that they have is really good and really multiple, but you kind of, see the same blitzes, same things that you're going to have to deal with. Now, all of a sudden, you're having to run an entirely new offense with an entirely new set of schematics that you're going against. And really the first 2 games, there's always unknowns because those coaches are off, in Arizona, Southeast Louisiana, they've been scheming some stuff up too. So there's going to be a lot of new things that are going to get thrown at them. So I think anytime that it's, this drastic of a shift, there's going to be some things that are going to have, real time adjustments that have to be made. But I do think having, a coach as high quality as Coach 𝙎𝘏 and a lot of returning older guys, I think that helps. But I think, it's going to be a mentality shift. It's going to be a lot of things that they're going to have to adjust on the fly. And, one of the good things, I was looking at the schedule, 8 home games with those cowbells ringing, hopefully that's gotta lend some, some help as well.
Sure. And I know you know a lot about them. I saw the mayhem on your shirt. I have since you were the DC at State all those years ago, you've since gone and been a head coach at multiple places, but I'll never forget the psycho defense, and scream. And since then, Coach, I've heard a lot of other people say in high schools and other stuff saying psycho defense. And I think, now, wait a minute, now that's Jeff's. That's his thing, but other people are using it. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that, but I think any kind of thing like that is flattery. And we had a great run there, and I have such fond memories of Starkville and the fan base and all those kind of things. I've still yet since I left there, I think the end of 2014. Have found any breakfast place that replicates Starkville Cafe duck butter, and I try to find that experience replicated everywhere I go. I just haven't found it. So I guess one of those 8 home games, I need to make a trip.
Yes, you do. You come on in. The little bit of that interview with Jeff Collins. How about that? Everywhere he's been, he can't find the duck butter that they have at Starkville Cafe for breakfast down there. Yeah, that's not the entire thing. I'll get it shared for you. If you want to hear the entire conversation was really interesting earlier today with Jeff Collins, former head coach at Georgia Tech and Temple, former DC at Florida and Mississippi State. There's a lot in there. And I'll get it shared for you both on, social via video, but also the podcast channels. I know, Sven, you mentioned it earlier that not only Apple Podcasts, which is iTunes, and Spotify, but on Google Podcasts as well. You're getting that over in Germany, so it uploads. It's pretty much anywhere you can get a podcast. You just search the Matt Wyatt Show, subscribe, and we'll upload it by the hour. And I'll probably clip that out separately and upload that to you. So if that's, you can just listen to that part of it. But yeah, it's and I said this, in the first part of the show when we heard the whole thing too. I kind of came away from the conversation with him going, it's really not a guarantee either way. First of all, and so people that would make this transition from air raid into this offense as it's just a guarantee that offensive line is going to struggle from the word go because of how hard the transition is. Well, it's just not a guarantee. There are variables there. How quickly do they pick it up? How healthy are they? The coach-player relationship, all those kinds of things. It's also not a guarantee that it's going to be easy. It very well could take time and kind of, getting into it. Now, a minute ago, Fred commented on the Country Pleasing text line at 885-3776, Country Pleasing Sausage, and said, hey, Matt, it was much more difficult to change our road graders, run blocking offensive line, to pass blocking. He said, remember the transition to the air raid. We struggled with really good linemen. You did at times, and eventually they did get it. And you remember early on, too, in that transition, you had a top 10 NFL draft pick at one of your tackle positions in Charles Cross. And it was you kind of working on everybody else. He had it. I think State's in this transition, State's got some advantages built in to get it transitioned a little more quickly. And one of those is all those players they're old guys. They've been around forever. There's so many seniors and grad seniors in that offensive line group. And the other is, yes, it's the inverse. Your pass block and getting tighter run block. To me, that's a little quicker, can be transition than the other way, trying to go from run block to on an island pass block. Stick around.
Have you ever wished for one product that would clean and shine almost everything in your house? Here it is, Clean and Shine. Like magic, Clean and Shine leaves a nice shine on fine wood furniture, so you don't need furniture polish. It cleans and shines mirrors, so you don't need glass cleaner for mirrors. It cleans and shines refrigerators, like this kitchen product, even countertops, tile, and vinyl. Try new Clean and Shine, the foam that cleans and shines almost everything in your house.
Someday when people look at me, they'll say, there goes Roy Hobbs, the best there ever was.
TriStar Pictures presents Robert Redford in The Natural, the story of a father and a son.
You got a gift, Roy, but it's not enough.
Of love.
He means the world to me.
And desire.
I'm not waiting for true love to come along, Roy.
A champion.
A Roy Hobbs comes along once, maybe twice in everybody's lifetime.
And his destiny.
With or without the records, they'll remember you.
Best there is now, and best there ever will be.
I wouldn't bet against me.
I already have.
Robert Redford, Robert Duvall, Glenn Close, Kim Basinger, Wilford Brimley, Barbara Hershey, Robert Prosky, and Richard Farnsworth as Red. The Natural.
Do you know me? Would you believe I'm Bugs Bunny? I'm also the voice of many other cartoon characters. But in here, they don't care if I'm Elmer Fudd. So I carry an American Express card, the one card I need for travel and entertaining, for business and pleasure. Why, without this, the only way I'd get any attention is by saying, that's all, folks.
To apply for a card, call 800-528-8000.
The American Express card. Don't leave home without it.
The following is a presentation of TBS Sports. exclusively on Superstation TBS. Superstation TBS presents the Atlanta Braves, America's team. Atlanta Braves baseball is brought to you by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that makes Budweiser the king of beers. This Bud's for you. By the official airline of the Atlanta Braves, Delta. We love to fly, and it shows. And by Eckerd Drugs, America's family drugstore.
If a man you've never met before suddenly gives you flowers, that's elation. The exciting new fragrance from Impulse.
Thursday, it's Cosby starting off a night of family fun. And leave it to Family Ties to keep the laughs coming.
Oh, no. What are we going to do? Everything's under control.
Then on Cheers, will Norm think on a friend to get a promotion?
Yeah, yes, yes.
And the fun continues with Night Court.
I'm here to strip for Dan Fielding.
Thursday.
Oh, what a meal, oh,
Hamburger helper lasagna.
for your family.
Authentic Italian taste.
Hearty robusto, but not too spicy, eh?
Hamburger helper lasagna turns your plain hamburger into a delicious Italian meal with authentic Italian taste. Curly Italian noodles, rich tomato sauce, and a better blend of spices.
I really thought that I was a preferred customer of Chick-fil-A. I really thought that. I really thought that I had sort of an inside track. I thought that we had spent so much money over the years at Chick-fil-A that, like, when we order Chick-fil-A on the app on my iPhone 12 Pro Max here from C Spire that I've kept in really fine condition for all these years. There's only one crack along the back of it, but you can't really tell. I thought that, like, I place an order on there and it tells me, hey, it even personalizes it. Hey, Matt, we're thinking about you. Here's a free milkshake. Claim it. You go. They put it in the bag. Cost me nothing. Hey, Matt, we appreciate your business. Here's a cookie. I mean, it happens all the time. And I got an email from Chick-fil-A. Okay. And in the email was something I hadn't seen, and it says, Matt, hey, we're giving you a heads up. Now, I'm only barely paraphrasing this. Hey, Matt. Hey, preferred customer. I'm giving you a heads up here. And it said in the email, we're putting a new spin on the original Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich. Pickled jalapenos, honey, and pimento cheese spread over our Chick-fil-A filet make the new honey pepper pimento chicken sandwich a flavorful spin on a familiar favorite. Dear Matt, be one of the first to try it starting Monday, August 28th. I quickly, with my handy-dandy iPhone 12 Pro Max from C Spire, took a screenshot of that image and that wording in the email, and I sent it to someone else who I know, you know, they frequent Chick-fil-A every now and then. That would be Beaver. He immediately hits me back with a voice message that says, oh, yeah, I already know about that. He was in on it first. Beaver, how'd you get word before I did?
You football players always thinking y'all are the most special people in the school.
I thought I would have known first. No, really. Did you get an email? Or like, how'd you hear about it?
No, I saw it on Yahoo. It was either, I think it was just yesterday.
Okay.
Actually, it may have been Tuesday, but I think it was yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, I want that. Now I'm gonna have to go no jalapenos.
Okay.
Otherwise, I want that.
I do too, Beaver. Does it not sound good?
It does. As I said in the message, I'm counting down the days. The 28th. I think, look, I think this is a better thing to count down to than week 0 of college football.
That is, I really think that people in our neck of the woods would agree with that, Beaver. As big of football fans as we are, I think we are even bigger fans of Chick-fil-A, jalapenos, and pimento cheese, and you put them all together, and honey. I mean, you put them all together, it's a bigger deal, no question about it. That's great. Look at here, man. I mean, just listen to the sound of it. Now, look, Chick-fil-A didn't pay me a dime, nor, frankly, probably will they ever. Now, they pay me in free milkshakes because I already told you that on the app every now and then. I don't know if it's a point system or what. I just don't know. Maybe they have some sort of tally in their software that goes, hey, man, these folks are going broke buying our stuff. Let's give them some kind of reward. Throw them a bone. Honey pepper pimento chicken sandwich. Say that 5 times fast. Honey pepper pimento. Honey pepper pimento chicken sandwich. Man. Sounds like it just might make your tongue slap your hat off. In fact, Beaver, here's another question for you. What food items other than chicken would a jalapeno, honey, and pimento cheese spread be good on? I think it'd be good on just about anything. Toast.
Hot dog.
Oh, you nailed it. Nailed it. How about a sausage dog from Country Pleasing Sausage at Duty Noble Field this spring watching a baseball game? Instead of slaw, slap some of that jalapenos, honey, and pimento cheese on the sausage dog. Yep. Golly, that would be good. I'm excited. Are you excited? I'm really excited. Mailman David. David, don't be a one-upper.
Yeah, he sure is, man. A story topper.
He's a story topper. Hey, look, every now and then, Beaver, I throw random Brian Regan references towards you. Look up his routine about the one-upper at the party and being an astronaut who walked on the moon. He said, that's why I always wanted to be an astronaut who walked on the moon. He said, because you could, at a party, no one could top your stories. Have you ever heard it?
I don't think I've heard that one, but
Okay.
here's a fun fact, because every time you mention Regan a lot.
Yeah, I do.
In my entire life, I've only been to 2 stand-up comedy shows because, around here we don't really have a venue for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've only been to 2 stand-up comedy shows in my entire life, and one of them was Brian Regan. He came here back in 2007 at the Yamara Hall.
Oh, wow. How neat. Well, see, here's the thing, Beaver. I mean, even if that was the only one you'd ever been to, you went to the best, in my opinion. He is
also
great.
saw Dane Cook. Remember when he was a phenomenon?
Yeah, and then he slipped up one day and they canceled him.
Yeah.
A lot of comedians have been canceled. Have you noticed that? But not Brian Regan. Yeah, his one-upper deal. He says, this guy is telling this story about he's driving. Yeah, I was driving my Porsche, on the Autobahn going 120 outside of Paris. I go over there a couple times a year, this, that. And he goes on this whole big thing about, portfolio. And then he goes, but if you're the guy, if you're the astronaut, then you're like, well, this one time I was driving around in the Sea of Tranquility, but, a couple thousand miles on the other side of the Milky Way. You just got to go here. And I can't do it. I'm just giving you the best tease that I could. You'd have to go listen to the rest of it. But, yeah, Mailman David texts in immediately and goes, I got that Chick-fil-A email about 3 days ago, LOL. Oh, well, good for you, David. Good. Good. Guess what? You can't get it until the 28th either. Somebody texted and says, Chick-fil-A has been cheating on Matt. I mean, Beaver knows about it. David got an email before I did. Okay, somebody texted me what I think is a picture of it. I don't know what that is. Okay, but I'll say this. If that's the jalapeno, honey, pimento cheese, chicken sandwich thing, in reality, it sure doesn't look as good on that plate as it does in this picture they sent me. All right, and before we're done, my man Sven has been asking for this all day long, and I have failed to give it to him. He wants a little JSU Sonic Boom before the show is over. Here you go.
Time is...
There you go, Sven. There's a little taste, and we'll hit another song tomorrow. We're about to hit the clock here and have to get on that. We'll do it again tomorrow. There you go. I'm telling you, you get to this time of year, a marching band, there's really nothing like it. And as marching bands go, there's really nothing like the JSU Sonic Boom. You know how they, on Twitter and social media, they'll put out these maps of the United States, and they'll go, here's the most popular college football team in every state, and then there's the little logos all over the country, right? And then they'll do, here's the the largest school in every state. Well, the other one that I saw the other day was the best marching band in every state, and it's every state. And sure enough, right here in Mississippi, there was right over Jackson a big JSU logo, the JSU Sonic Boom, the best marching band in the state. Do you realize that in the state of Alabama, they had Alabama's band as the best marching band? It's easily third in the state of Alabama because Auburn and Troy are fighting for the first spot in the state of Alabama. They put Bama's band on there, so they got it right for us. They put the Sonic Boom on there as number one. All right, fun show today. Look for the podcast. Look for the video replay on the live stream. Just go cue it back up, watch it again, and we'll be back in for a new show, same time, same place tomorrow. I'm Matt in the Bureau, the Farm Bureau Insurance Studio with Beaver, all of us here on the show. We'll see you tomorrow, okay?